Imagine a clock, not just ticking away seconds in the background, but actively counting down the very opportunities that define your entire life. In today's Explainer, we're diving into an incredibly cinematic, against all odds story. It's the tale of a young man named Ravi. We're going to explore his ultimate journey of growth, battling not just absolute poverty, but the relentless, unforgiving ticking of the clock. This isn't just a story, you guys. It's a literal blueprint for mastering your own potential. Time is the only wealth that both the rich and the poor receive equally. I really want you to feel the weight of those words for a second. In the universe of our story, and, well, in our own lives, this is the ultimate equalizer. You can be born with absolutely nothing, just like our protagonist Ravi was, or you can be born into vast riches, but every single day, we all get exactly 24 hours. What we're about to explore is the ultimate differentiator between total failure and incredible, against all odds success. All right, let's get into part one, the cost of tomorrow. Okay, let's dive into this. We start in a small, impoverished village. Ravi's family struggled every single day, sometimes not even knowing if there'd be food the next morning. His parents, a laborer and a domestic worker, they poured all their fragile hopes into him, mainly because Ravi was incredibly smart. But here's the thing. Brilliance means absolutely nothing if you possess one tragic, fatal flaw: procrastination. It's the act of treating time as a servant, always believing there's enough tomorrow to achieve today's goals. While all the other village kids woke up early to study, Ravi's constant excuse was, there's still plenty of time. He pushed his studies, his duties, and ultimately his potential to a tomorrow that just never seemed to arrive. And this habit? It completely blinded him to the reality of the present. And it all came crashing down because of one single thing. Just one missed opportunity. A massive district scholarship exam was announced, a literal golden ticket for a full, free education. Ravi promised his dad he'd study, but, you guessed it, he kept putting it off day after day. When he finally opened that exam paper, it hit him. He had completely thrown away his shot. He failed. And seeing his father sitting alone outside in the dark, just silent and totally crushed by disappointment, man, that delivered a devastating, sleep-shattering wake-up call to Ravi. Which brings us to part two, the leaking pot lesson. Wandering by the river the very next morning, totally consumed by guilt and the ruins of his father's dreams, Ravi ran into this mysterious, wise old mentor with a flowing white beard. The old man looked right through him and delivered this piercing truth. He said, "Your problem isn't poverty. It's that you treat time as a servant." Ravi was super confused. So to teach him, the old man told Ravi to meet him before sunrise the next day and handed him an empty clay pot to fill at the river. But there was one strict rule: do not stop anywhere on the way. So Ravi took the pot, but of course he ignored the rule. He stopped to chat with some friends, he dawdled around, and by the time he actually reached the river, the sun was already high in the sky. When he finally brought the pot back to the old man, it was almost completely empty. There was this tiny little hole in the bottom, and this brilliantly illustrates the old man's metaphor. That water leaking out, it's exactly like Ravi's life. His time was silently leaking out through these small excuses, minor delays, and just endless procrastination. By the time you realize it's gone, the pot of your potential is entirely empty. And wow, this realization hit Ravi like a lightning bolt. A total transformation kicked in. The old Ravi, the guy waking up late, drowning in "I'll do it tomorrow," completely gone. The new Ravi was forged. He started waking up before the sun even blinked. He tracked every single hour, aggressively optimizing his life and fighting back his old lazy habits with pure, relentless grit. He was actively preparing himself for something way, way bigger. So let's move to part three, the city challenge begins. Now, think of this next phase as the ultimate tournament arc of our story. A massive city corporation announces this fierce competition for rural youth, and they're promising the ultimate prize: a high-paying job, housing, and further education. A real chance to completely rewrite his family's destiny. As Ravi was packing up to leave for the towering, blinding lights of the fast-paced city, his father handed him an old, cheap watch with just one piece of advice: time respects those who respect it. It wasn't about how much money the watch was worth, right? It was this physical reminder of the ultimate weapon Ravi now wielded as he entered the fray. And let me tell you, this competition was an absolute gauntlet, brutal and totally unforgiving. First up, a massive 3-day project solving a real village problem. Then, a ruthless training camp requiring sleepless nights and these insanely complex puzzles just to try and break their spirits. And finally, a psychological integrity test involving a sealed envelope they were expressly forbidden to open. It was a cutthroat environment, specifically designed to aggressively weed out anyone who was weak, impatient, or dishonest. The sheer scale of this trial was just staggering. From thousands of initial applicants, the group shrank down to just 100 survivors after the very first stage. And after those mind-bending puzzles and that brutal integrity test, where a ton of people failed simply because they couldn't resist peeking inside that envelope, they were down to an incredibly tiny fraction, just 10 finalists remaining. Among them was Ravi, and this wealthy, wildly arrogant rival named Aryan, which sets the stage for part 4, sabotage and ultimate resolve. The tension was at its absolute peak here. The stage was totally set for the final presentation. But Aryan, this wealthy, arrogant rival driven by pure ego and just terrified of losing to a village boy, made a really desperate move. He sneaked into Ravi's room the night before the grand finale, and he stole and completely hid Ravi's meticulously crafted notes. All those months of preparation, the data, the specific project details, just vanished. He left Ravi with absolutely nothing but his memory. I mean, imagine the sheer despair. The floor completely falling out from under you just hours before the biggest moment of your life. Everything is lost. The final presentation is literally tomorrow. And I want to ask you directly, would you give up? Honestly, ask yourself. In your darkest moment, when all your hard work is stolen and the odds are entirely stacked against you, do you fold? Do you just accept defeat? Well, Ravi did not. Pushing past every conceivable human limit, just staring at his father's old watch, refusing to let his circumstances dictate his fate, Ravi pulled an absolute all-nighter. Driven by pure adrenaline and this unwavering resolve, his eyes burning red, his body totally exhausted, he sat down and recreated his entire presentation purely from memory. He harnessed every single second of that night, proving that his newfound mastery of time had forged an unbreakable spirit. Let's roll right into part 5, Triumph of the Underdog. So, morning breaks, the stage lights are on, and the ultimate battle of presentations begins. Ravi walks on stage and his hands are trembling, but as he starts to speak, that fear transforms into this confident, deeply heartfelt pitch about solving real problems in his village. He leaves the entire room in awe. But then, just as the judges prepare to announce the winner, there's a sudden interruption. Company staff burst in with CCTV footage exposing Aryan's cowardly theft from the night before. Aryan is totally disgraced, and Ravi is rightfully crowned the victor, not just for his intelligence, but for his unbreakable grit, his absolute honesty, and his ultimate mastery of time. And finally, part 6, the legacy. Now, what's really interesting here is the long-term impact. Let's take a breath and look at it. A victory like this doesn't just change a day, it changes generations. Look at the incredible contrast between his past and his present. A boy missing exams due to procrastination, living in a village, stuck in poverty, is now a highly successful corporate director. But more importantly, he used his success to build a free school and pave new roads for his entire village. He became a literal beacon of hope, proving that mastering your own time allows you to build a better world for others. Years later, Ravi actually returned to his village and placed that old, cheap watch right back into his father's hands, bringing this deeply emotional journey completely full circle. And he shared a really profound realization. He said, poverty is not a bad thing. Wasting time is. Lost money can be found, but lost time never returns. Time is the only wealth given equally to all of us. The story of Ravi is a masterclass in human potential, proving that you have everything you need right now, just ticking away on the clock. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to carry with you today. Will you just casually spend your time, or will you invest it? Stop procrastinating. Take action today.